to the speaker's right, which will indicate how much time is remaining. A bell will sound when you have 30 seconds remaining. Speakers registered on the consent agenda items will be taken following announcements of any items being pulled from the consent. Speakers registered on non-consent agenda items other than public hearings and zoning will be taken together prior to those items being acted on. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items within those blocks that they have registered to speak. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting. I'll call us to order.
Okay, please silence all electronic devices. You are here. Sorry.
Jeanette with the jokes this morning. I like it.
Today's invocation will be by Bishop Kevin Dickerson from the Dayspring Family Church. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the pledges of allegiance.
Most holy and righteous God, we're grateful to you for life, health, and strength. Thank you for the freedoms we enjoy and for the men and women who have fought for and maintain our freedoms today. Thank you for the ability to go to work, school, and to be active in our communities. Thank you for the calling you've given every one of us to love our neighbors as ourselves. God, we thank you even today, Lord, for all of the contributions that African Americans have made to the building of this country, this state, and our city of Fort Worth. Thank you for our city and all of its successes, and even the challenges we face as we strive to make Fort Worth an even better city. In your holy word, you have called us to pray for those who are in authority, and we're grateful that you are using those very authorities to promote peace, fairness, and justice for us. This morning, we pray for the leadership of the city of Fort Worth, Mayor Parker, the city manager, and our city council members. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them the wisdom to govern and lead our city, a passion for the true needs of all the citizens of Fort Worth, an insatiable desire for justice and fairness, confidence and courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives, and enthusiasm and joy in their work assignments. I pray for the agenda that's set before the City Council today. I pray that you will be glorified through their decisions. Please give them the assurance that of what would please you and what would benefit all the citizens who live, work in and around our beloved city. And let everything done today be done in agreement with the mission statement of Fort Worth, where we're working together to build a strong community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
The first item of business will be a special presentation to recognize members of MedStar, Fort Worth Police Department, Fort Worth Fire Department, and the Fort Worth community members.
Thanks, Jeanette. I'm going to call on Councilwoman Elizabeth Beck to come down to the dais. And at the same time, I know several people are here today to be recognized. If you could also make your way down, kind of get behind Elizabeth here on the dais. Anybody that's here for this special recognition. Councilwoman Beck.
Thank you. I'm going to try to get through this without tearing up and getting too weepy on you, but this is a big one. We kicked off the beginning of this month recognizing that it was Heart Month here in the city of Fort Worth, and I can't think of a better way to end this month with recognizing some very special people that you see behind me today. We make a lot of decisions on this dais about our first responders. We appreciate them, but I think that until you have watched them in action, the true nature of the miracles that they can work, the expertise that they have, the bravery that they have, is lost. And I was very fortunate to be able to witness that. Some very amazing firefighters, Fort Worth police officers, and community members. They didn't know when they were saving a life that they had an audience, but they did, so they're here today, and it is my honor to thank each and every one of you and recognize you for what you did. January 12th, 2023, I was having lunch with a very good friend of mine who happens to be a member of the Fort Worth Police Department. While we were there, Mr. Baron Land went into cardiac arrest. It was but for the quick actions of our community member, Mr. Calvin Summers, who answered the call when they yelled, "Who knows CPR?" It was officers Moore and Ray, and who showed up quickly when Officer Mendoza radioed for help, and Sergeant Young, who came running across the street from the Hemp Hill sector, all to provide aid to Mr. Land. MedStar was there. MedStar showed up. Members of our Fort Worth Fire Department showed up, and because of their quick action and their quick response, Mr. Land is actually here with us today. And yes. Something that was really striking to me is after this event, I emailed several of the folks that were involved and thanked them for what they did. And it was actually Sergeant Young who said that this was not the first time that you had performed CPR, but it was the first time that someone had made it. And that was really heartbreaking to know. And when you hear the statistic that only 6% of people who experience the type of event that Mr. Land did survive, you know, what you did in that day was truly a miracle. And so I would like to start by recognizing, let's see who's up first, Mr. Calvin Summers. Thank you so much. Thank you, brother. Oh, we do not have our Paris Coffee Shop folks here with us today because they are busy cooking up extra crispy hash browns. If you haven't had them, I've tried. It's their rush hour. Sergeant Jason Young. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Officer Christy Mendoza. Officer Moore, come on down. Thank you. Officer Ray, there you are. Lieutenant Brad Barron. All right. Thank you. Captain James Castillo in the house? No? All right. Engineer Jeffrey Horton. Firefighter Morgan Hicks. Firefighter Caleb Gilliam. Andrew Kennedy. Are our MedStar folks here? Okay, so just as a testament to how hard these folks work, our MedStar folks can't be here today because they are on a call, saving another life. So we will save these for them, or we'll make sure that they get them. And then Mr. Land, I have something very special for you, and I'm gonna walk to you so you don't have to walk to me. But on behalf of the fire chief and the fire department, I'm presenting you with a Survivor's Challenge coin. Awesome. And so I don't know if you know much about challenge coins, but they're often given to represent your accomplishment or you're a member of an elite group. And I think that 6% makes you pretty elite. And so on behalf of the fire department, I'd like to hand you this.
And I'm back.
For those of y'all, it says, "And I'm back." I think we got everybody. All right. So I just, again, thank you all so much. I want to be able to look at you. Are you cutting me off on time? Is that what happened?
You're good.
Chief, your officers, can y'all hear me? Chief, your officers did an amazing job. Watching them respond so quickly really is a testament to the training that they have. There was not a moment that they blinked. They knew exactly what to do. They literally came running when the call was put out. And so bravo to you and your team. And likewise, Chief Davis, there you are. Your firefighters were the most professional and really handled the situation. And likewise with MedStar as well. We could not have asked for a better situation. And I think it shows that, that we got you out of Paris Coffee Shop and into the hospital, and you're here today. And I'll make sure I will carry the message that you would have liked your to-go plate with you in the ambulance when you were leaving. So thank you all so much. And I think we're going to turn around and take a picture. All right, and then you can go.
Mayor and Council, there are no items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda by council members. Next will be items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
You want to borrow mine?
I'll borrow yours. All right, we have two items to withdraw from the consent agenda. One is MNC 23-0145. And the second one is MNC 23-0148, and that will be continued to March 21st.
Okay. There is one item on consent to be corrected, and that is MNC 230161. The current council district should be 2, not council district 7, and the future council district should be council districts 2 and 7. Mayor, the next action item is approval of the consent agenda. Oh, sorry, we got 3 consent speakers.
Perfect, thank you. Our first consent speaker is Bob Willoughby, who will be followed by Gerald Miller.
Lord. Disabled. I like that. That's what I am now. Okay. You don't know what I'm talking about. We don't talk anymore on each agenda item like I used to. They messed this up so you can't know. There's 2 items I'm talking on. I think I got to split the time. I'm not sure. You just have 3 minutes on each one. They're robbing us of everything. Well, the first one is about the mental thing for the police department. I don't know if that's for victims or what. A mental is like $50,000. I'm all for that. But you know what? We need one for the police because Chief Neil Noakes runs out of the building every time I try to ask him a question. I want to file an assault charge and he won't talk to me. He runs off. I think he needs mental. I think we need one of these things for mental for our council members. They've lost it too. They took away our right to speak. Okay, that's one thing. The other one I was going to talk about is the Black Chambers of Commerce. Now, Beck called me a racist last time, has never came in public, face me on the ground, and take that back. They talk up here. They're protective. You can't say anything. And when I get through talking, they're going to attack me, but I can't say anything. Come to my show, come down here, and talk me face to face on equal ground and try that, okay? Go ahead and say your lies while you're sitting up there, but come down here and face me. Anyway, the Black Chambers of Commerce, same as Hispanic, any other thing, taking money from us. These organizations, they put on their website how they're doing good for Fort Worth. Chamber of Commerce says it's making Fort Worth a better place to live. It is. Then why don't you come down here and ask these people why they took away our right to speak as city council? We don't speak anymore. We're not on the agenda to speak tonight. So if this organization wants money from people that are not doing right, do they care about the money? Are they really caring? Their website says one thing, but their actions say another. I would refuse that money until they put our right back to speak. I offered $1,000 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital if they just answer why they removed the public presentation from the city council agenda. The most legitimate question you could ask these people. They didn't answer. Well, I took $1,000 and I'm using it against Gina Bibb and to expose her crooked. Never mind, can't say that. Anyway, that's my thing. I'm not a racist. It's not against the Black Chamber of Commerce. It's against every organization that is putting out one picture and doing another. And when Beck calls me a racist again, it's not true. I mean, I say to everybody, look, it's real simple. One of the worst organizations you can think of is the KKK out there, okay? They're a real organization. They're out there. That's out there. Would the Chamber of Commerce take money from them? They're a bad organization. They wouldn't do it, would they? Would they take money, my money, taxpayers' money, from an organization up here that's taken away our right to speak and messing this up and using this as their own? Look at them, they all got their heads down. They don't care. Hi, Mr. Smiley. Anyway, that's what I've got to say. And if I got to vent, I got to vent now because I can't afford professional counseling, okay? Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Gerald Miller, followed by Adrian Smith. Is Mr. Miller here? No. Next speaker is Adrian Smith.
Adrian Devon Smith. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. I had an opportunity to look at this current MNC proposed by the council. Apparently, we're going to start going after shopping carts that are basically, I say, left abandoned, or they leave the property of a particular retail establishment. Most likely, this happens without the retailers knowing, because a lot of people take shopping carts for whatever purposes, they take them. But I think more or less and thank you, Ms. Vivens, because I learned how to dive in deeper, not just look at the surface of things. So thank you for that. You taught me a lot. I don't think that the city, I believe the code enforcement, the code compliance, I believe if this is adopted or whatnot, you all decide to move forward with this. I think they'll be the ones who ensure that these shopping carts are not, quote unquote, this issue will be taken care of by code compliance, basically. And I think it's a fine that'll be attached to the establishments per shopping cart if they're not able to retrieve them. I truly think it's a waste of city's time, because most code compliance agencies within districts are not doing what they need to do in those districts. So to take on another task I guess you could say it might not be a burden to them, but I see a dollar amount attached to it. So I'm wondering if the city really wants to go through with this. Shopping carts, we know a lot of our homeless people, they use shopping carts for means of transporting their personal items. It states that 16 shopping carts will have to be quote unquote acquired from a particular business. Y'all got this, it's just the language. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but I don't agree with it, basically. I think more or less I want to know is, this is the question I should have been asking. What notice have the businesses been given? I think that's more or less I want to know, because this is a transparency issue, you know? I mean, if you're going to push this agenda item forward or whatnot, what due diligence have our businesses been given to, you know what I'm saying, to get ready for these changes? That's the question. So I'm all over the place, but I know where I'm going in my mind, but I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. We're happy to have someone from Code Compliance to follow up with you on those questions. Go ahead, Gina. Councilmember Bivens.
I wanted to offer comment on this specific matter. I have a very good relationship with the corporate constituents in District 5, all but the grocery industry. And so right now, the only presence the grocery industry hears from is Code Compliance primarily. And I think this gives us a better chance to communicate with them so that they realize they too have an obligation to keep Fort Worth beautiful. And I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Gina. That's the last of our consent speakers, Council. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed.
Councilmember Flores, you're up first.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, first slide. On February 9th, my district director attended the monthly meeting of EMS ISD, People of Influence, a meeting I usually attend myself, but I haven't been able to figure out how to split myself in two and be in two places at once. But it's important to coordinate with Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD because of their community efforts, collaborations, education, et cetera. It's a brand-new administration building. If you've ever been to it, check it out. It's wonderful. It's a very flexible layout, and it also has a great learning lab facility. Next slide, please. Okay, February 18th, the annual Mayor's Neighborhood Awards. Was honored to do the MC duties for that. Along with me, we had council members Blaylock, Beck, Williams, and Nettles who were present. The city recognized those outstanding organizations and individuals who impact on the community level what our city is and what it aspires to be. So thanks to everyone who attended and to staff that made it happen. Next slide. February 18th, historic North Side at Artes de la Rosa on Main Street at the Rosemarine Theater. This training was set up to include community stakeholders there, and it was twofold. We're working on establishing a Latino museum as well as introducing the neighborhood stakeholders and residents to the upcoming neighborhood improvement plan. So very well attended. Thank you, staff, also for helping us coordinate. Next slide, please. February 25th. Fort Worth Fire Department does its annual honoring of its fallen firefighters at the Police and Fire Memorial. We must continue to remember our fallen as they given their lives in service of this city. So thank you all that attended. Remarks by our Mayor, Mandy Parker. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Carlos. Our next is, I think, Councilmember Williams is up next.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick announcement. This Saturday, we're having our next Litter Day with Dr. J. Join us this Saturday, March 4th from 9 to 11 a.m. We'll be meeting at South Hills and building a community while also cleaning our community. We'll be meeting at South Hills High School, and make sure to RSVP at District 6 at forwardtexas.gov. Next slide, please. Also, I just want to give a shout out to my alma mater, TCU, for recognizing myself and several other young leaders in our community for Black History Month. It's definitely an honor to serve the city of Fort Worth. in the ways that we do. And so go Frogs, and thank you again for the honor.
And Councilmember Nettles?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, we want to say Happy Black History Month. This has been a great month. It's always an opportunity to support and share our culture of our Black history. And so we thank all the council for supporting Black History Month. So this is the annual Neighborhood Awards. West Meadowbrook and Central Meadowbrook along with Riverside received the award. Next slide, please. Had the opportunity to go to Dallas, don't go often, but went to Dallas for a Living in Color charity gala. We was there supporting Southside Garden, who has continued to do great work in South Fort Worth, which is the 76104 zip code. Next slide. We had a great reveal. The Black Business Impact Mural was revealed. Gina Bivens, Mayor Pro Tems in her district. It was, I mean, phenomenal. Again, supporting and showing not only our Black history, but our current Black history, our current things that are happening with our Black people here in the city of Fort Worth. It was a great event. Next slide. I had the opportunity to go to the Fort Worth Chamber Snicker Ball. It was great. It was a great event. It was a fundraiser, and I tell you, we dressed up and we felt good. So it was a good event. Next slide. So we have an announcement. We have been doing this, well, the YMCA has been doing this for quite a few times here in District 8. It's the team night. And so it's going to be March the 11th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. If you know any team that needs something to do, get out of the street, come to the YMCA, and we're calling all teams to come this Saturday, which is going to be March the 11th in 2 weeks, for food, fun, and safe atmosphere for you to come and be a part. So ages from 12 to 19, registration is available online. Please come out and support, send your young people there, and they'll be well taken care of. And I believe that's all my announcements for today.
Councilmember Beck?
So we all got to attend the neighborhood awards, but District 9 got to bring home Neighborhood of the Year. So a little bragging rights there. I'm really proud of not just the Oakhurst neighborhood for being Neighborhood of the Year, but several of my other neighborhoods that were nominated for awards. We had 2 MPOs nominated for MPO of the Year. And so District 9 really showed out as per usual at the neighborhood awards. And I'm really, it's really a pleasure to get to represent such cohesive and amazing neighborhoods. Next slide, please. We've got a pool under construction. So they let me play on some heavy equipment out at Forest Park Pool. Demolition has begun. In fact, I think if you go out there now, all of that concrete is already up. They're making fast work of it so that they can have that all hauled out before spring break hits the zoo. But you can see on the left what the general layout is going to look like of that new facility. And I am so excited to see that thing come back to life. The new bathhouse is absolutely beautiful. It's in a mid-century modern design to harken back to what's there now. And they're actually working to save the stone that was used in the current bathhouse to put in the new bathhouse. Next slide. That's just the Downtown Neighborhood Alliance meeting that we had last week. They had lots of questions about our downtown library, and they were really excited to see all of the street paving improvements that we've done in downtown, so good job, TPW. All right, and that's it.
Thank you. I think that's the last of our presentations from council.
Mayor, next item will be speakers on the non-consent items, and I believe there are 4 speakers.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Bob Willoughby. Bob will be followed by Adrian Smith. I think Bob may be outside. Adrian, are you sitting? Adrian, why don't you jump up? Oh, here comes Bob. Go ahead.
Well, one thing is, we keep adding townhomes, town clusters, apartments, everything here in this city. That's all it is. And our growth is exceeding our income big time. That's why we have rolling blackouts. People are actually dying from their stupidity up here, okay? People are actually dying. They don't feel it. They don't suffer from it. But we're filling up with apartments and townhomes and that. No yards, no houses, small houses, cram them all together like chickens in cages, you know? No room to breathe or grow. It's not good for children or the quality of life, okay? But the main thing is, the zoning cases were supposed to be on Thursday night. I'm kind of curious why we got 2 zoning cases now and not on Thursday
Hey,
night.
Bob, just for clarification, this is the non-consent agenda on
Oh, it's a
NBC
non,
20.
I thought it was, oh, you mean I got another 3 minutes to speak tonight on a different item? I didn't know that. I thought I had to put them all in that one there.
Yeah.
So this is not the zoning case?
No, sir.
Okay, just remember that. We'll just use it. We'll pick up and then we get to the zoning case. Okay, what's this one? Is this about the mental thing or the Chamber of Commerce?
This is actually referencing the Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce.
This is one about the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, well then I can finish up on the Chamber of Commerce. All I want the Chamber of Commerce to do is just come down here and ask these people, why did they remove the public presentation from the council agenda? That's all. It's a legitimate answer. It was on here. I got robbed. I don't know if anybody else feels that. And you know what? I don't think people really know the importance, because we've been dummied down for the last 30 years. People have been dummied down not to get involved with their local government. But I want you to know, these people have more direct power over us than the President of the United States. And that's fact. And you know, everybody votes on the president, but nobody votes here. If this city had 30% voting, that would be low, but we're at 10%. Think what that is. Now, that's why I've got a problem with Chamber of Commerce not coming down here and helping us. We need all the help we can get from every organization that takes money from us up the city. That's who you're taking it from, me, okay? It's my money you're taking. These people took away our right to speak. I want you to help us get it back, and I don't mind you taking our money. But if you're gonna sit back and turn a blind eye to what they do and just get the money, that's what we're wanting to expose here. The real thing, okay? I know Beck is back now. She's here. She's the one that insulted me last time and called me a racist, just trying to paint me. And she will not come out in public and confront me. She won't come down here after the meeting and say, Mr. Billy, this is why. She can't do it because it's not true. These people are watch. You want to attack me afterwards too when I can't speak? Thank you.
Is Adrian Smith, followed by Cameron Chubak.
Adrian Devon Smith. I truly think we, as a city, as the council, and us as the constituents, this, that, or the other, I think we can agree to disagree on certain items and still move forward in harmony. And I just would be amiss to say one thing to Mr. Flores, which I think it should have been stated when this particular session was open, was to God bless you and continue with strength to your mother in her healing and recovery due to the recent incident. So, like I say, we can have our agreements and disagreements, but we still can walk in harmony. So God bless you, Mr. Flores. The Financial Openness, Responsibility, and Transparency Act. All right, so it states that we have 3 council members currently who votes on certain items or certain things when it comes to decisions being made here around Fort Worth. I mean, you all do it collectively, but this particular agenda item said we're going to move from 3 to 4, I believe. I would say.
Adrian, just for clarification, sorry to interrupt you. I think this item that you signed up on pertains to the Ville Ranch Reinvestment Zone, which is 23-0207.
It must have got me by accident. I didn't sign.
That's not the right one. Okay, then please keep going. That's fine. No, you're good. You got a minute and 30.
Okay,
Please go.
well, hey, I guess I'm in the middle of my. Well, anyway, it was CP 326. I just would say we need to add more council members to this particular consideration, because we are dealing with, when we say financial, we're talking about taxpayer money that comes into this city to take care of city business and make things move in city business. I think we need more individuals on board, making decisions when it comes to this. The openness, I think the openness could be more. I truly think one person, I'm one, I can't speak for everyone, but I truly believe we are in the red as a city, but I'm not the one crunching numbers. I'm just someone who's in observation of what's going on and has been going on. I think I have 50 million reasons to feel this way. 50 million reasons to feel this way. Hint, hint. But as far as responsibility and transparency, I think we can improve in those areas as well, because spending has to get under control. Responsible spending. We had to get to a lower tax rate, you know? And I think the debacle at the new city hall is one thing that sticks out in people's minds at this present. And as I take my seat, I will be in unison with the new county judge. As he stated, we need to get spending under control. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cameron Schubach. Is Cameron here? It's a call,
It's a
sorry.
Remote. Cameron?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Cameron Chubbuck, as was mentioned, and I'm just wanted to call in on behalf of Resolution 3, which is a resolution approving the issuance of revenue bonds for the North Hill Manor Apartments. I'm in support, obviously, of it. I represent the developer and the group that will eventually be the borrower of the proceeds of these bonds to purchase and to substantially renovate this important affordable housing property in northern Fort Worth. I mostly just wanted to join in case there were any questions that came up as it relates to this resolution. So I don't have anything else to say unless there are any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. Our next speaker is Avis Shashon.
Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the Fort Worth City Council. Avis Shashon. I'm the Executive Director of Real Estate Development with Palladium USA. It's always a great day to come and visit Fort Worth, and today is gorgeous, no doubt. I am here to ask for your support for this item for 7340 Kingswood Senior Living. This would be our 5th development in the city of Fort Worth and our first independent senior living development in Fort Worth. And it's a 2023 9% competitive housing tax credit application. It is very competitive. I would like to thank Councilmember Williams for your time and allowing us to make our proposal great. I think you called it game-changing. I'd like to thank the Candle Ridge Estates HOA for meeting with us and their support, and the Ridgeview Estates HOA as well. I'd also like to take the time to thank Victor Turner and his staff in Neighborhood Services, Chad LaRoque and Leah Brown. I know this process is not easy, and it's very nuanced, and it's a lot of work, so I do appreciate all of their help as well. So today, I humbly just ask for your request for the resolution of support and the fee waivers listed in the M&C. Thank you.
That concludes the speakers for non-consent items. The first item for action is CP 326.
I'll call on Councilmember Michael Crane to discuss this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I think my colleagues will remember several months ago I asked the city manager to follow policies that other municipal, state, federal government does to provide a fiscal note as part of any proposal brought forward to council. Subsequent to that, in conjunction with staff, I asked, they thought it best to formalize that here at council, that procedure. So as a council, I believe we have a duty to provide good fiscal oversight to all taxpayer dollars in which we are entrusted. I also believe the citizens of Fort Worth deserve to understand the full cost and budget implications for any policy being brought forward for a council vote. A complete evaluation of all costs associated with the proffered policy is a prudent measure for any government body to execute. Answering the questions of, is it in line with the strategic policy already outlined by this council? Is it legal? And yes, what are all the costs associated with the policy are essential questions we and the citizens of Fort Worth deserve to know. That's why today I'm proud to introduce the Fiscal Openness, Responsibility, and Transparency, or FORT Act, which will bring full transparency through a robust fiscal note and evaluation to any future agenda item. In addition, after staff consultation and in anticipation of adding 2 new council seats in a few months, this proposal will emulate best practices in other cities for how proposals are brought to the council. Moving forward, mirroring practices in Austin, Dallas, 33% of the council will be required to move forward in any proposition forward. This is still less than the 45% requirement required in San Antonio. Mr. Smith, I agree with you a little bit that we should raise it higher, but I think this is a good starting point for our council to have this conversation and how we move forward. Through these measures, I'm confident we will increase transparency and communication, both of which are essential in building trust, not only with the public, but within this body itself. With that, I move to waive the requirements in Council Rule Procedure 5.2.1 to allow for this council proposal to be acted upon today and in the city council meeting in which is introduced.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. It looks like Councilmember Beck. Are you up? No? Okay. Councilmember Nettles.
Thank you. So I do want to really digest and take in count this entire CP to its entirety. Normally, such change as this is greatly changing our policies and procedures of how we bring city council proposals to the city. In good practice, it would be good to take it to work session first. When you want to change how you're going to propose policies, so let me explain this to you. Things are put on the agenda by our city manager and our mayor. And so when we as council feel that other agenda items should be placed on the agenda, we have the option to do a city council proposal. And what that proposal allows us to do is get with legal, get with management staff, and present a proposal together. Then we work with our colleagues to sign that proposal to be placed on the agenda, which this is on today. I will give an example of one of the ways I was going to do a city council proposal was the oversight board. And when Councilman Michael talks about transparency and trust within the body, one of the things that I did is worked with our mayor, worked with the city manager, and it took 16 months in order to get the oversight on the agenda item for a vote. 16 months. After working with staff, working with our mayor, working with our city manager, 16 months to get it on the agenda. Now, I could have just put a CP up and we could have voted for right then and right there. But for transparency and trust and working with this body, I waited 16 months. Some things cannot wait 16 months. When things are happening in our city, just as Councilman Williams will talk about here in a little bit, his CP that he put together that did not come to this council. We were dealing with the, what was it called? The curfew ordinance. We had an issue with the curfew ordinance. And one of the things, if you don't agree with something or you don't think it's right, you always should give an option to something else. And so Jared Williams, Dr. Williams proposed a CP. And we were going to put it to practice, but he worked with the mayor and others not to bring it forward to put in the budget item. But those are items that cannot wait until a budget item or until you have 3 or 4/3 of the council. So let's break down this. Now, we could have did this in work session, but since we're doing a CP, let's go ahead and do this on the dais. So number 1, it talks about the Financial Management Service Department that shall identify the dollar amount, the funds that adopted for the CP, to estimate the dollar amount of staff time that would be required to implement this CP if adopted. Okay, so now we want to require staff. Now, watch this. This CP was not introduced to us until Friday. So you're gonna require staff to come up with how much staff time is gonna be used to implement this CP, how much dollar amount is gonna cost for the city to be budgeted for this CP by Tuesday, by 3 days, because we're waiving the rules, which normally if we don't waive the rules, it will be introduced today and then we'll vote on it next week. But you just heard the motion to waive the rules. So you wanted staff to come up with dollar amount, staff time, and budget by Tuesday. Can't happen. Let's take into consideration my good friend, Councilman Beck, put in the CP for women products, which was also signed a second by the mayor of Fort Worth. You want us to figure out how many hundreds of women products we're gonna put in, how many times we gotta restock them in all city buildings, who's gonna restock them, how many hours are the custodians going to stock them, and the number of employees that it's gonna take to calculate the cost of restocking them.
Just as a point of clarification, Councilmember Nettles, I will point out that Elizabeth Beck worked diligently for a week prior to that CP and knew the amount was $80,000 and identified that money working with Neighborhood Service and Parks and Recreation. So it's probably not the best example in this situation.
Well, it's the example that I'm going to use, but I appreciate you bringing that up to this body. Thank you so much for that. I think it's all about everybody having an opinion and their desire. At the same time, there was a CP that was brought to this body. That was a CP that we needed to do at that time. It was important to this council. It was important to a council member, and it was for our constituency. And so it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost, how what the budget looks like. If it's for our city and it's going to impact our young people and our constituents, we need to move forward with that policy. The next thing, it says it wants to know how it's going to affect our budget. Number 2, any CP that anticipates the results of a substantial ongoing expenditure cannot be implemented until going through city regular budget process. My question, since we're jumping in, who is going to decide substantial amount? Is that going to be this body? Or is it going to be budget? Is it going to be David? Is it going to be, who's going to decide if it's going to be substantial enough to affect our budget? These are play on words. You better be careful, because this is what I call a takeover. If the CP wins the majority of the vote, it is city policy, and we need to move forward with that. Number 3, to amend the number of council members required to city council to sign on to the proposal. Currently, it's 2. They want to move the number from 2 to 3. Then when we get to 11, they want to move it to 4. Is that not correct? Okay, I just heard a little rumbling. When we look at all the cities, they talked about Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, and Fort Worth. I went a little bit farther and did some more digging. El Paso has 9 council members, and it only takes 1 council member to propose something to be put on the agenda item. Not 2, not 3, not 4. Looked at Galveston. They have 7 council members, and it takes 2 council members to put something on proposal. I think if we're going to be transparent, don't just pick the ones that helps your backing in support of the CP, but put a majority of them. Galveston and El Paso have just as many council members as we do, 9 and 7. I will say, if we're going to be like Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio, and I'm really shocked that Dallas is on here because how much Fort Worth said they don't want to be like Dallas. But if we're going to be like Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio all has an oversight board too. That's the same board that this body voted down in November. We want to pick and we want to choose what cities we want to be like when it helps our vendetta. But we don't want to pick and choose when it helps the community. Again, I truly believe that this CP should stay at 2 when it's related with this council. When we move to 2 members, you got 2 members, you can add another person to sign on. That's fair. But to bring this CP and waive the rules to change how you bring CPs together sounds pretty fishy to me. I think it's very important that this body takes this to work session and that's really hit hard on these issues. Some of these need to be taken out, some of them need to be removed, and it needs to be fixed. I will not be supporting, number 1, to waive the rules, nor will I be supporting to put this in motion. I will have other amendments to this, and I'm asking that we send it back to the work session. Those are my comments now. I'm sure I have some more as you all begin to talk.
Councilmember Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I think, one, I want to say thanks to Councilman Crane and Blaylock for pulling this together. I know council proposals aren't anything new to this council, and it's a really important tool that we've used to accomplish a number of things, including working with city management to figure out ways to fund mid-budget year the National Juneteenth Museum, which was incredibly important and a humbling way to honor such a pillar in our community with Miss Opal Lee. And so I think, you know, in this proposal, there's a lot of important things that we need to discuss and work through. I appreciate the need for a fiscal note. I think it's a good idea. I think there's some other components of this that if we were to put it through a work session and work together, I think we could come with a really solid policy change. I think this is a fundamental change to our council rules. They're the rules that we all agree on and how we want to govern and move things forward for the city. And it not only impacts this council for the next 60 days of this council is governing for this cycle, but it also fundamentally impacts the way the next council, which is going to be elected in 60 days, will do business. And so, you know, I think while there's some important things that we need to work through with this, I think it's also important two things. One, that we work to build consensus because this is in fact this body's rules. And it's important that, you know, mayor and council, that we agree on these rules because it's the way that we commit to governing this city in an effective way. So I would humbly request as a substitute motion that we continue this until 90 days to allow the next council to weigh in it. Furthermore, I think it's important that we allow them to weigh into it because this council proposal and the changes specifically to how many council members get to or required with this change to bring a proposal forward fundamentally creates some roadblocks for council members being able to bring important policy issues from their constituencies to this dais for important discussion. I mean, I think that's something that we really need to walk through and talk through as a council before we rush and make that decision. So respectfully, I would ask that we continue to work on this as a body until we get it right. I think it's a good start, but there's more work to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Williams. I've got a motion and a second. Actually, Councilman Bivens, did you have something? Go for it.
In a matter of days, things can change on this council. When I left last week and was approached about raising the number to 4, it sounded like a good idea to me, and I was fine with it. I don't know about the financial ramifications, and I would like staff to address that as raised by Councilmember Nettles.
I may ask Councilmember, actually David Cook, to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, back to this. So the topic, which is one of the items on the council proposal in front of the city council today, has to do with providing a financial impact statement for any item that comes on a council proposal. Generally, in the past, we have tried to do that when we've come to waive fees. So when you think about how we've used council proposals in the past, has been to waive fees to allow an event to go forward. We did do the feminine products one, which was pretty easy to gather financial data related to those requests. There are council proposals that have been discussed that would have required an extensive amount of research to determine the fiscal impact of an item and had substantial financial impact on the city, which in my opinion means it should be part of the annual budget process when you get to decide how to allocate the resources that are necessary. So the request of a financial impact statement is good public policy and should be part of any council proposal. And when you think about some of the ones that have been discussed, it would have required a lot of work and should be part of the budget process. I hope that helps.
Is there any harm delaying it? I'm supportive of 4, but is there anything that we have to do it now?
From the financial statement, not related to this item, right? This item, in my mind, does two things. It says we should require a financial impact statement on every council proposal. I would say that's good public policy. The other part of the council proposal is related to the number of signatures required to put a council proposal forward.
Any other questions? Gina? No?
Maddie? I'm
Yes,
sorry, Mayor. I did want to say something, and one of the things I have issue with the financial is because when I did some research, there is times when we put proposals together or decide that we're going to implement something within the city, and we say that we're going to use, say, for instance, ARPA dollars. When we get to the implementation of that policy, sometimes there's other pockets of money, either the fund balance or the general fund, or even sometimes we're able to work with the CCPD budget. Depends on if it's related to that issue. And so what will be deterrent of me is that we put a CP together and David and their staff works on the financial to say, hey, it's going to come out of the general budget. But that's all we know right now because that's what we have, the money. But as implementation goes in process, it may come from a different pocket. And so although we may be sitting on council and looking like, no, we can't affect our budget like that, but in reality, it can come from somewhere else. And I think that is going to affect how we vote on CPs. And I don't think that's fair to put on, although it's maybe good policy, some things it will cut down or limit us to vote on because of the outlook of it, from the face of it. That's my concern. That's why I can't support it. I mean, you may have something else to help me understand that.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. Councilmember Beck.
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me say that thank you, Councilman Crane, for putting this together. I agree with our city manager that I do think it's good public policy that before we vote on a CP, we know what the actual costs are. Some are easier than others. And so the question that I have for you, David, is, and this is my concern and why I think I'm supportive of adding the requirement, which we already, to be clear, we already have that on our CP. And so I think that I would like to have a discussion about how this changes the general process. I understand why we're doing this because there are times that things are more appropriate for the budget than they are for a CP. And for staff purposes, we want to make sure that we have some sort of clear delineation on this is an appropriate initiative to bring forward via CP versus the budget process. And so I would like council to be able to have that discussion so that council has that discussion with staff so that everyone's clear on what that process looks like. And I know Councilman Nettles brought up the CP that Mayor and I worked on for the menstrual products. And, you know, that was fairly easy to determine. But it still took some doing and it took some staff time. And so what I would like to know is just as a council person, when I'm putting forward, we were able to get that one pretty quickly. It was about a 2-week turnaround, and that crunch was because we wanted that to be in place for the summer when we knew our libraries, our community centers were going to be filled up with young women. And so how does this impact the timing of our CPs? Is I think a very good question because, you know, this drop on a Thursday and, you know, vote on a Tuesday, well, that's not going to give you enough time, staff time to do maybe a little more complex or what level of detail are we looking for? And so I'm supportive of beefing up that particular portion of the CP wholeheartedly. I think if we're making ill-informed decisions, we're not doing right by our constituents. But I would prefer that we have a conversation about this in a work session environment as opposed to voting on that particular change here on the dais for my benefit and I think for staff's benefit as well.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Councilmember Crane.
Yeah, just thanks, Elizabeth. And I think your point and the point that's been brought up about your CP, I would say was the way that this process should work. You came and talked to all of us. My first question to you was, what's the budget impact? And you knew the answer. And so I think that this is a move of transparency for our citizens. I want to put that again out there. This is a move of transparency, accountability, responsibility that we should be doing. And I don't understand all the consternation. If it's that easy to get it done and it's something we should be doing, it should not be that hard to have conversations with the rest of us and get the 3 or the 4 signatures you need to put it on there. I think it is cheeky the way it can be done if we don't have the conversations and at least know you've got 4 people that support it to do it. As you know, all of you, I've talked to about this before when it was dropped or before it was dropped. So it was, in that point, transparent at least to know that this was coming and it was going to be out there.
So just for clarification for those watching, we have a alternate motion on the floor, which we'll vote on in a moment. A few things I wanted to click through that I think might be helpful. First is I appreciate Councilmember Nettles articulating a few different cities to point out to. I'll just mention that the city of El Paso is about 678,000 people, so it's a smaller city, and the city of Galveston is only 53,000 people. So the cities that were included by staff and legal here, I think do reflect the appropriate sized cities where the city of Fort Worth is going. The other thing is I told Councilmember Crane, it was very important to me that the change in the number of council members on a CP wouldn't have hindered this body and individual council members from bringing forward even contentious issues. And I could be corrected, but to my knowledge, since I was elected just over a year and a half ago, even the most contentious issues, it would have been easy to get to 3 signatures on those items. So we would not be stopping an individual council member from bringing those forward, which is very important to me to make sure that our council members have the opportunity to discuss these items, bring them forward. I appreciated David articulating what used to be the CP process. To his point, it was usually more minor changes, smaller dollar items. And there have been some wonderful ideas given from this dais, and one in particular that Jared Williams, this audience may not know about because he ended up pulling it down in the discussion with Curfew because we plan on doing it during the budget process. That was the right decision because it had a large fiscal impact to the city of Fort Worth. We are not a strong mayor city. We are a city manager form of government, and we have a wonderful budget process that our professionals and department heads do a process that's painstaking over a series of 6 to 9 months. And I think we have a responsibility on this dais as elected officials to work alongside the professionals when we have good ideas. I can think of several items that this dais has worked on alongside city management. I'm working on one right now with staff and city management to put that in the next budget cycle. So it doesn't hinder us from still implementing some of these changes. And to Councilmember Nettles' questions about delay, yes, it may delay a CP for being prepared to vote on that very next Tuesday, especially if it's multi-million-dollar impact to the city budget. I think that's actually a good thing on behalf of taxpayers. So I think this is a really healthy debate, and no matter which way the vote goes today on this dais, important to remember that we can still tweak these rules and resolutions as a body. And I would fully support, regardless of this vote today, let's put this on a work session agenda item to continue to change and make sure we're all comfortable, and importantly, that staff is informing what this process will look like going forward. So with that, what I'm going to do is ask us to vote on the alternative motion that Councilmember Williams put forward. Actually, I think it was you, and then seconded by Chris. We'll vote on that first, and then we'll move on to 2 additional votes that would have to take place depending on the outcome of this vote. Go ahead, Jared. If you don't mind reading your motion, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, and just before I make the motion, I just wanted to clarify on the Care for Minors resolution. That CP was a little bit different because it didn't ask for a fiscal note. It asked for council support and authorizing staff to go do the work of how much it would cost before we decided whether we would do it. The other thing I would just say before we vote is, I think CPs are not meant to gauge the level of support. They're meant, similar to Robert's Rules of Order, to make a motion and have a second for an item to be on the agenda. That's the spirit in which CPs, from my perspective, really have the power in getting things on the agenda for discussion. And so that's why, I'm still having a hard time understanding the change between 3 and 4. We don't have to discuss that, but I just wanted to state that for the record, just in case we don't get to discuss that with the votes. So with that, I'll reiterate my motion. My motion is to continue this item for 90 days so that we can continue to work on this as a council.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. I have a motion and a second by Chris Nettles. Please vote. Motion fails. So now we're going to actually, we're going to vote on the motion to suspend the rules to take up CP 326 at this council meeting.
I have another substitute motion, Mayor.
Actually, this motion's already on the floor, so go ahead, because Chris Michael already motioned earlier, so we had a substitute motion. So in Robert's Rules of Orders, that would actually take place first. So let's let this one go. Go ahead. Got a motion on the floor by Michael, a second by Alan Blaylock. Please vote. Motion carries. So now we've gotten the motion to suspend the rules. Now we'll take up item CP 326. I need a motion. Motion and a second. Please vote.
Okay, I have a substitute motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Because I just heard you mention we can talk about this in work session, but I think that's, I'm not going to say a cuss word, but I think that's butt backwards. So if we're going to talk about it in work session, I think we should talk about it first. So I motion that we send this to work session, have a dialogue so that we can come to a consensus as a council body and be completely transparent. After the work session, it'll be placed back on the agenda item for a vote. That's my motion.
Thank you, Chris. Got a motion and a second. Please vote. No, it was actually Gina. Motion fails. So we're going to now vote on CP 326. We're back on the motion that originally was carried by Councilmember Crane and seconded by Alan Blaylock. Please vote.
Mayor, I would, point of order, I would like to make some amendments to the motion.
Am I still good? Okay, go ahead.
I move that we remove item 4B from this budget, given the discussion that we had today. Also move that we strike item 3 and leave it as is, with 2 council members required to bring a council report proposal forward to this body. And then I also move that we strike the checklist that's required in this proposal.
Repeat the first thing you wanted to do, Jared. Sorry,
For 4B, so from and complete and attach the CP checklist.
it's in you're talking about under subheading 2?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry. Section 2, sorry about that. Section 2, 4B, about the substantial ongoing expenditure.
Okay.
I think that's really vague, and if we're going to vote on it, I think we should strike it until we clarify that.
Okay, and then that would also, that's what you're referencing, the checklist, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
and strike
thank you.
the checklist.
Okay,
And then also strike number 3, leaving the current rules in place for 2 signatures in order to bring an agenda item forward to this.
okay.
body.
Okay, got it. Any council members need clarification on the motion? No? Okay, I've got a motion. Motion and a second, please vote. Motion fails. So we're back to the original CP 326 motion. I've got a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. Chris, I need you to vote. Motion carries.
Next item will be 230140, board appointments from District 7.
And I believe Councilmember Flores is going to take care of these for Councilmember Firestone.
Yes, correct, Mayor, thank you. Request council for consideration to appoint the following individual to place 7 to the respective board effective February 28th, 2023, with a term expiring October 1st, 2025. And that would be Jennifer Ferguson to the Building Standards Commission.
Got a motion, can I get a second? Thank you. Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 230207.
Councilmember Crane, I'll call on you for this one, I think. Thank you. Motion and a second, please vote.
see.
Councilmember Nettles. Chris. Thank you. Motion carries.
Next item is 230208.
Motion and a second. Thank you to our RTC board members. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 230209.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 230210.
Councilmember Nettles. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0007 with report by Beth Knight.
Hi, Beth.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, member of the council. This item has been continued for several times now. We have an applicant who is requesting an alcohol distance waiver where the distance is typically 300 feet from property line to property line between a public school and the place that sells alcohol. In this particular instance, the property lines touch. And so the applicant is requesting a distance waiver to allow to sell alcohol at a restaurant that is adjacent to the school property. The school board, it was continued a couple of weeks ago so that the Lake Worth ISD could vote on that. And the Lake Worth ISD had a meeting last night where the vote was 2 votes in favor and 4 votes against this proposal. So I believe the applicant is also here and ready to speak, but I'm available if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Beth. Any questions, council? Okay.
Good
Just
morning. Mayor.
sorry, just a second. I'm so sorry. We don't have any speakers on this item, correct, Jeanette? No. We don't need you to speak, I don't think. But if Councilmember Flores has any questions, we'll call you up. Councilmember Flores?
I don't have any questions per se, but I want to acknowledge that Mr. Cardarelli is here. Thank you, and I think you attended the school board meeting, correct? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Flores, can we get a motion?
All right. Before I make my motion, I'm just going to give a brief couple of remarks here. I appreciate the involvement from staff, Mr. Cardarelli, and I did speak to the Lake Worth ISD superintendent, board president, about letting them consider this matter like they did back in 2015 because the board has changed. They took a vote on it and they voted not to support it, and the vote was a 2-4 split. The key to this matter is this. It's not a question of distance. There is no distance involved. The property corners touch. And according to what I've heard, there have been some issues related to alcohol service there allowed at the restaurant back then. So I considered this matter very carefully, and in light of all this, in light of the feedback that I got from the school board, I'm going to deny the request.
In a second, please.
Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can the applicant come up, please?
Sure.
Sir, what kind of restaurant do you have?
My restaurant was an Italian restaurant. We served Italian food and pizza.
Okay, and how long have you been there?
We opened up in 2013. We got the approval for the alcohol license in 2015, but we shut down in 2019 due to the COVID. I lost some key employees. I couldn't keep it open. But today, as of 2021, at least, I'm also the landlord. I was not only the owner of the restaurant, but I'm the landlord. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Aziz Valley of Valley's International Kitchen. Let's see, he applied back last year for the alcohol license, and it was denied. I'm here, I heard the Councilman Flores say that there were issues with the serving alcohol. As far as I know, there wasn't a single incident, either from the city or from the TABC. If there is any.
Let me ask you another question.
Yes, sir.
Serving, the ability to serve alcohol, is that going to financially support the restaurant, a small business, to continue to stay open and serve food?
Yes, sir. As of 3 months ago, the restaurant's been temporarily closed because of not having the alcohol license. They cannot survive by not having the alcohol license.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming up to speak on that. I'm going to support that effort to serve. Probably won't make it through, but I'm going to support a small business to stay open in the city of Fort Worth. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And just to clarify for council, in my conversations with Mr. Cardarelli, yes, COVID did have an impact on his restaurant, but at a time, there was an extended period of time that he did close, and you yourself told me that your assumption was you did not consider the matter of your being allowed the alcohol license to lapse, a problem. But it was. There was an extended period of time of at least 6 months that you let lapse before city notified you and said, well, you can't do that. You have a problem. And I understand that, circumstances involved, wrong assumptions made. The issues that I heard of did not involve the TABC per se, okay? For me, having the input from the Lake Worth ISD, because there is a school there are children there, there are impacts that we have to be sensitive about. And this is why we have the ordinance that we have. It clearly stipulates a distance. There is no way to satisfy that distance requirement here. And believe me, I looked at it, talked with staff. It goes from property line to property line. We discussed maybe doing it from wall to wall. That's not written in the ordinance. I don't have that latitude. So this is why I'm making my decision.
I've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Go ahead, Carlos. Please repeat your motion.
It's a motion to deny, make sure that I articulate this correctly, Leanne, the ability for them to have a variance, from our ordinance, which stipulates, 300-foot requirement.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 230062 with report by Stuart Campbell.
Morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Stuart Campbell. I'm with Plating and Annexation Section. This is a public hearing on an annexation request. This is an owner-initiated annexation. The applicant has requested a continuance on this item to March 21st. I'm prepared to give a staff report today. Councilmember Firestone's office has been contacted. He's in agreement with the continuance request, so I'll go forward at the board's discretion.
Thank you, Stuart. It's a motion to close the public hearing and take action on MNC 23-0062. Are you handling that, Carlos?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just getting
Thank
my mic on here. Okay. So move to close the public hearing and continue MNC 23-0062 until March 21st.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mayor, we'll move up and take ZC 22-192, which is the companion zoning case.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Councilmember Flores.
On case ZC 22-192, move to continue until March 21st.
Motion and a second. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0152. with report by Robert Stearns.
Morning, Mayor and council members. Robert Stearns with the Economic Development Department. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive public comment regarding the city's participation in property tax abatement outlined in M&C 23-0152. Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code authorizes cities to designate tax abatement reinvestment zones and to enter into tax abatement agreements only after the city elects to become eligible to participate in tax abatement and adopts a tax abatement policy that establishes guidelines and criteria governing its tax abatement program. The tax abatement policy adopted by a city is effective for 2 years from the date of adoption and can be changed with a 3/4 vote of the governing body. The City of Fort Worth's most recent general tax abatement policy, which was adopted pursuant to resolution number 5337-01-2021 under M&C 21-0074, expired on January 28th, 2023. The new policy will be effective on February 28th, 2023. This new policy will be similar to the existing policy with 3 primary changes as follows. The new policy proposes a revised minimum annual average employee salary of $55,000, which is an increase from the current wage requirement of $52,300. The policy updates the tax abatement matrix for general and target industry projects to adjust the maximum term of abatement and the jobs required to be eligible for abatement based on the overall amount of investment. And the policy clarifies employment commitments for Fort Worth residents. Following receipt of public comments, staff recommends closing the public hearing and approving M&C 23-0152, adopting a resolution electing to participate in property tax abatement and approving the general tax abatement policy.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions for Mr. Stearns, council? If not, I can take a motion.
Move to close the public hearing and act upon this action.
Councilmember Nettles with a motion. Can I get a second, council? Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
To approve.
Motion and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Bivens. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is M&C 23-0155 with report by Leah Brown.
Good morning, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Leah Brown. I'm a Neighborhood Development Coordinator in the Neighborhood Services Department. This morning on your agenda is M&C 23-0155 regarding the adoption of a resolution of no objection supporting a housing tax credit application by Worthington Point Apartments LP for the rehabilitation of Worthington Point Apartments, an existing multifamily affordable housing development located at 12301 Hemphill Street in Fort Worth. Worthington Point Apartments LP intends to submit a 4% non-competitive housing tax credit application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, also known as TDHCA. In order for a 4% housing tax credit application to be submitted to TDHCA, a municipality is required to hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments on the project. The development consists of 248 units currently set aside for families earning 60% or less of the area median income, or AMI, which is currently approximately $54,240 for a family of 4. As part of the substantial rehabilitation of the development, housing affordability will be preserved and enhanced. 223 units will be set aside for households earning 60% or less of AMI, with the remaining 25 units set aside for households earning 30% or less of AMI, or currently no more than $27,100 for a family of 4. Staff has reviewed the request by Worthington Point Apartments LP and found that the development is consistent with the quality affordable housing goals and priorities in the city's 2018 to 2022 consolidated plan. Therefore, staff recommends that after any comments are received this morning, the public hearing be closed and the City Council take formal action to approve M&C 23-0155 and the attached resolution of no objection for the development or the redevelopment of Worthington Point Apartments. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Any questions for Leah? Okay, council, I think we can move to approve.
Mayor, just before I approve, just to confirm, it's a resolution of support for the project in District 6, correct? Or are we doing these separate? Are
That's
we voting
correct.
on these separate, or?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll enthusiastically move for approval for the one in CD6 and then take action on the rest of it.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you?
Sorry, that was my question, yeah.
Go ahead, Fernando.
The council may wish to entertain an amendment pertaining to the Basswood project.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
these-
this is different.
Yeah. This resolution is specifically for a 4% housing tax credit application. The other MNC.
Pardon me, I'm confused.
Yeah, the 9%.
Disregard.
Move to approve, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
okay, perfect.
wrong one.
No worries.
We've got a motion, council, and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-181.
Councilmember Williams, excuse me. Now you're up.
Mayor, we have two speakers on
Great.
this item.
I believe you. I've lost on all these pages. Hold on, wait, I got it. There we go. This first is going to be Brennan Plemons, please. Sorry, Brennan, but followed by Bob Willoughby. We need more coffee up here, apparently.
Yes, good morning. How are y'all doing? I'm Brendan Plemons. I'm here on behalf of the developer looking to rezone the property from current PD to an R2 zoning. We actually have approval for 14.8 acres to be zoned R2. We actually have reached out and worked with Councilman Williams he asked us to look at adding another medical office building, which is more in line with the use in that area. And we've been able to add about a 6,000 to 7,000 square foot medical office building and reduce the number of townhomes in doing so. So that's just my clarification on this. I want to make sure that's stated. And so we took the original zoning case and reduced it by about 0.7 acres to accomplish this.
Awesome, thank y'all for working with legal on the meets and bounds as well. Can you just clarify the two other commercial uses that'll be on there as well? The medical office building on the north, east, and then the commercial on the south, correct?
Correct,
That's
yes.
still-
And those are remaining unchanged as per their zoning.
Okay.
So, but there will be a total of 3 now, thanks to Councilman Williams, medical office buildings along with commercial on the south end.
Awesome, thank y'all so much for working with the residents. I wanted to put that on the record just in case folks are watching and wondering why I was on this agenda and continued from the last one, so thank you for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for working with us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Thank you. Our next speaker is Bob Willoughby.
As I said before, townhome clusters and apartments, the city's getting overfull with them. You never own it, you just rent. And I'll tell you, that's why we're, until our income exceeds our growth, and we're not understaffing police, our electric grids aren't overloaded where they can't run out. No telling how our water's gonna be in the future. But anyway, one person is one too many dying from rolling blackouts and electric grids not working because we can't supply enough power to cover everything. These apartments and stuff, fine in the future, but right now we got way too many. And you're just gonna keep it. And I want to make one thing clear. No matter what kind of case I make down here, whether it's 100% right, they'll do what they want at the end of the day. They don't work for us anymore. Us, the people, don't have no control down here anymore, I grant you that. They do what they want at the end. So I know when I'm talking to them, I'm talking to plastic, mostly. Some of them aren't as plastic as the other ones, okay? But they're plastic. And zoning cases were supposed to be on the night one so that people could be there. And that's something they did too. The city, we're growing. We're growing. They're saying we're growing so big, we had to add 2 more council members. You know, we're growing. What'd they do? They take council meetings down and reduce them down to 2 a month. These council meetings, these zoning, we used to only have about 4 or 5 a night because they were scattered over 4 nights. Now they're all in one night. We got 16 zoning cases. When you're here for zoning, you guys sit here half the night because they don't want us to have 2 more council meetings a month like we should have. This city's too big to have just 2. And I'm so sick of comparing with other cities. Won't you ask the people who live here? I don't live in Austin, El Paso. I live here. Won't you ask us? All you do is sit up there and you look at the cities that benefit you and you give it to us and say we're going to do it. I want our right to speak back. I want it to go back before you got here. Maddie, I think, and material possessions that are not meant to last. That's what you did. And I can't help that. That's what you did. You've done more to the city in 20 months than has been done in 50 years. Took away our right to speak, changed our council meeting times, but you don't ask us. That's the thing. You don't include the people. You don't ask us. It's our money, but we're not included, and you treat us lower. And I know, anyway, I appreciate getting to vent a little bit, because that's all we can do. We have no power. Thank you.
Bob, I might just add just one little item. I noticed recently on social media you've chosen to use my children in your latest mailer. I'm going to go on record that you take the kids off your Facebook page. They're not yours, they're mine, and you're done for the day. Thank you very much.
You can't respond. It's one-sided. One-sided. Only one side. You can't talk. See how that?
I'm going to turn back to Councilman Williams for your item. Go ahead, Jared.
You're a coward.
Go ahead, Jared. You'll hear from my lawyer then. Thanks so much.
There were some things said in a comment that I want to clarify. One, I think it's inappropriate, all of the things that he did to you, Mayor. Second, I think it's inappropriate that he's using a dog whistle to shame our folks who choose to rent. My first house on my own as an adult was a rental property, and but for that unit and a lot of other graces from God, I wouldn't be where I am today. The other thing I would say is I think he was mentioning the wrong item, because on this particular item, it has nothing to do with for rent products, which are vastly important in our community. This one, however, is a development by Steve Hawkins that is providing townhomes for sale. And I think it's particularly relevant and important given that it's in a medical district in Southwest Fort Worth with lots of nurses and doctors and PAs and a lot of other folks who are looking for that right size home. So I wanted to clarify that. I would also like to make a motion that was written down for me. Thank you, legal. I move to approve ZC 22-181 with the revised boundary description.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. And has trails. Great. Great project.
Next item is MNC 23-0153.
Councilmember Blaylock.
So I move to approve the MNC with the following changes. Make revisions throughout to reflect that the reserve at Basswood project will receive a resolution of no objection, and change all references for the Kingswood property to 7340 Kingswood Senior Living LTD. The Basswood site is not designated for multifamily housing in the city's comprehensive plan. It's the motion.
Just for clarification, Avis, I do have you registered as a speaker on this item. Did you want to add anything? Okay, making sure. Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0159.
That'd be me.
Councilmember Bivens, excuse me.
Before reading my scripted motion, Mayor, I just want you to know that I support your passion and your statement concerning the use of your children as dog whistles.
Thank you,
And
Gina.
whatever it takes to support getting them off of his page, count me in financially and any other way. Because
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That's just a little bit too low. On the matter of MNC 23-0159, I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt the resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire a total of 0.123 acres in permanent sewer easements and a total of 0.1237 acres for temporary construction easements from real property owned by Christopher M. Garusi Living Trust and Fort Rowlett Land JV. The property is needed for the construction of emergency sanitary sewer mains M-182 and M-191 to cross Interstate Highway 820, a public use that will provide needed sewer capacity. The properties are located at 3500 East Loop 820 South in the Parkside East Addition, Block 6, Lot 1, and 3600 East Loop 820 South in the Ulrich-Wutherick Survey, abstract number 1693, tract 2E1 and 2F3A, Tarrant County, Texas. The property interest to be acquired is described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this MNC communication. And that is my motion.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote.
Next item is MNC 23-0160.
Councilmember Crane?
Come on, we're almost done. We're almost done. Before I speak to Mayor, I'll back what my other colleagues have said. He went too far using your children. I think we all put ourselves out in the public, and we understand that that's part of this job, but your children shouldn't be part of that. None of our children should. Also, none of our employees should be. So Bob has been served with a trespass warning because he came to my office and harassed my employees who are just trying to make a living and put food on the table. So with that, I do have a question before I read this one with staff. Probably Steve. Steve, you want to just go right there? I just want to make sure I'm going to read this and move for approval, but I want to make sure that staff still continues to negotiate in good faith with Mr. Harvey over this property.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know you've had
As early as this morning, we've spoken to him, and he's coming to our office this coming Friday, and we're looking to have a counteroffer that we think will be workable.
Okay, I appreciate it. So with that, I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt the resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire .9590 acres in permanent water facility easement and .9413 acres in temporary construction easement from real property owned by Burke C. Harvey Irrevocable Trust 2012, located at 1 Live Oak Place in the Walter Houston Survey, abstract number 719, tract 7A, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is needed for the West Side 3 water transmission main project. Public use that provide water treatment from the West Side Water Treatment Plant, Old Weatherford Road, to the south side of Interstate 20, just west of Markham Ranch Road. The land rights and the subject property are needed for the continuation of water line improvements. The property interest to be acquired is described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0154.
We got lots of council districts covered in this one as part of the 2022 bond program. Councilmember Flores?
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0184.
Councilmember Crane? Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Mayor, I believe that concludes all of the action items for today.
Thank you very much. And with that, council, meeting adjourned.